of Superior, Arizona. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation. Dear Lord, thank you for watching over this town. Please take care of our police officer that got hurt the other day, and everybody and all the other people that need help in this town. Amen. Roll call. Henry Munoz. Here. Joy Evelyn.
Here.
David Gunn.
Here.
Matt Mashaw. Here. Hank Gutierrez, Sherry Fedor, and Jesse Garcia are absent. Consent agenda. Approval of October 3rd, 2019 regular agenda minutes.
I move to approve.
A second.
Motion made by David Gunn to approve. Second made by Joy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries to approve meetings of October 3rd, 2019. New business. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Superior will hold a public hearing to consider the adoption of the 2018 International Building Codes with local amendments to be applied with the Town of Superior, Arizona.
Okay, just to give you some background on this, there are a number of reasons we have to update our code. Number one, Pinal County has indicated they are unwilling to continue enforcing our building codes, so we'll have to take it over ourselves. The code we're operating on currently is so old we can't get certified on it or buy copies for it, so we'll need to update so we can be in comply with that. There's also a state law that says you cannot adopt a fire code that is less than the state fire marshal has adopted, and the state fire marshal was adopted in 2012. So his code supersedes ours anyway. So we have no choice but to update the code. I have no real feeling that we're going to actually adopt the code tonight or recommend adopting the code tonight. I put that left the resolution on there for you to see what the local amendments are, so you can consider that. We have it on the agenda again for next month to actually discuss adopting it. These books are very expensive. We have one copy that's in Svetlana's office. Anyone is welcome to come by and read them anytime you like. They're not a light lift.
Are these the new proposed codes then?
Yes, we have the new one, we have the old one as well. There are a lot of changes between them. Comparing them is probably counterproductive.
Yeah.
Svetlana's prepared a change list from every different code set, because there's been 5 adoptions.
Yes.
In
Every
between.
3 years.
Every 3 years there's a new code set. So there's been five shots between when we adopted last and this one. And there's different changes for each one. So she gave you a spreadsheet that shows all the different changes on all the different areas from all the years. It'll probably take a little while to dig through all of that. Most of them are very procedural and not particularly relevant. But I've asked Svetlana and Fire Marshal Dallas Lane to present the changes in the building code that are most relevant and the fire code as well.
Okay, this is our codes, not the articles, not the zoning articles.
No zoning
Okay.
changes. This is just this is part of town code. It's adopted in 2 different chapters in our town code. And it says this is the code set we will enforce.
Yeah.
I'll explain about it more in detail here. So, if you look at the screen, 2018 ICC Building Code Adoption. ICC is International Code Council that has different codes that are related to each other. Town of Superior, community development, and building safety, past and present picture. Our mission statement is, Town of Superior mission is to assure the residents and general public of their health, safety, and general welfare within the built environment. Department objectives. Those are the codes that in 2018 ICC group. Last adoption of the building code, IBC 206, and all the related other codes, they were adopted in 2014, I believe. The building code is published every 3 years. Since then, we had 2009, 2012, 2015, and 2018. We propose adoption of the following 2018 international codes and the 2017 National Electrical Code. Pinell County adopted the IBC 2018 International Code and the 2017 National Electrical Code. Why we go with 17, not 12? We just would like to be in the same page with Pinell County. We are in Pinell County. It would be easier for building officials, inspectors to go with one code, then we don't have any discrepancies and differences. And if we're adopting 2018, we do propose to adopt 2017 National Electrical Code. Why we have to go back in 2012? And then if we don't adopt another 10 or more years codes, they don't have to be adopted every 3 years. We can stay with those codes for several years, like with 2006. Those codes will be 2018 International Building Code, IBC, International Residential Code, IRC, International Plumbing Code, IPC, International Mechanical Code, IMC, International Fuel Gas Code, IFGC, International Fire Code, IFC, International Property and Maintenance Code, IPMC, International Energy Conservation Code, IECC, International Pool Spa Code, IPSC. If you look at the amendments, just about the pool spa code, we copied Pinell County amendments because, again, we're in Pinell County. We would like to be in union with their codes and regulations. They studied pretty thoroughly the 2018, and there were deleting many sections in the pool spa codes about the pools. You can see that in the amendments that attached to your copies, there is a special section for an exhibit. National Electrical Code, NEC 2017 edition. Adoption process. An adoption process we have a public hearing today, February 6, 20. Next will be a town council public hearing, and I perhaps will add another public hearing in March with planning and zoning. And then will be March 12th town council public hearing, and we're planning, hoping to have an effective date of a building safety ordinance 2018 codes in April 20, 2020.
I would like to address the timesheet a little bit.
We can change
We will expand it probably at least a month, but this is a very ambitious timeline, and there's
Yes.
reasons for that. Pinell County is dropping us in August, so we have to have everything lined up, including subcontractors to enforce our code and everything else, by August.
We have to move fast on this.
Tom, when you referenced that we're going to get dropped by Pinell County, are they just not going to be doing our inspections anymore, or?
They're not renewing the IGA that allows them to do any of our building inspections or permitting or anything. They won't be involved in our building process at all.
So the town's basically going to hire an inspector, or is it going to be?
Yeah, we're putting out an RFQ for building inspection and plan review. So
For this town
we
council.
still won't be, we don't have the capacity to do it internally. It strikes me as, we would not have the economics of scale to ever make it practical. So it's much better to outsource it, at least for now. And then hopefully that what still has to happen though, is Pinal County still is a flood administrator. They still do the air quality. We still have to run a lot of things through them. But the basic building inspections, all that stuff is gonna be us. They've told us they don't want the windshield time. They come up, they drive up here for 2 hours to do a 30-minute inspection, and they drive back down. They'd rather be spending their time in Casa Grande and Maricopa, where they have hundreds of building inspections to take care of. So, they've told us, they gave us 1 extra year to get this put together, but they're dropping us.
Is that to our benefit?
That's maybe, maybe not. It's very difficult to say it to be to our benefit if we're not organized enough to take advantage of it. It's gonna be a very difficult lift to get all this lined up before the transition. We've got to adopt a whole new form system. We have to adopt a whole new fee structure. We have to get some inspectors on board. It's going to be a nightmare.
Our codes have to be adopted, and that's the reason is why we're trying to get this by April 2018, because there is all the inspectors working with the newest codes.
Yeah,
So-
we're not gonna be able to hire somebody to enforce 2006, so.
When we were contracted out with the county, were we getting charged by the inspection or a yearly rate?
We weren't getting charged at all unless it was a permit for the town itself. What happens is we send our residents to Pinal County. They bought a permit from Pinal County. Pinal County did all the inspections and plan review and all that sort of stuff.
So
All
now
that's
they
gonna
have
be-
to get it from us, right?
Now it's all gonna have to be internal, which that does not sound fun.
It's a little more of a cost then too, huh?
It's a little more cost administratively, and especially if you have to hire somebody to do it, it'd be a nightmare. So, yeah, I'm not happy about the transition, but I'm stuck, so we have to figure out how to make it work.
So our fees will raise. We will have to adopt the new fees for, same, Pinal County has for plan checking architectural plans, reviewing them, doing the inspections. So next step is existing 2006 ICC building codes, 2006, and EC electrical codes, 2006 ICC energy code. That's what we have right now. What we're proposing, 2018 ICC building codes, 2017 and EC electrical codes, 2018 ICC energy code with amendments. And the amendments, again, you have in your package.
And they're pretty much directly taken from Pinal County, not reinvented.
So we talked about that there are many significant changes. I have all those hard copies of the significant changes, done some study, 2006 to 2019, IFC, International Fire Code, and mainly I was done more study on International Residential Code, as this is more for us for residential. So there's 2006, 2019, what changes was done, 2009, 2012, 2012, 2015, 2015, 2018. I have all those hard copies. If you're interested, please stop by at my office. I can give you to read. To go through each one of it, we will not finish in 2 days. So you do your own study, and you're welcome to read them. I think that would be best if we just go from 2006 to 2018. There's many changes. What the key changes and amendments. Those are two. I just pulled out two, for example, for you to take a look. For the most part, the 2018 code requirements have remained the same as in the last 2015 code edition. I looked at our 2006 book for section 105.2, work exempt from permits. 2006, for example, IBC code has in the building section 1-story detached accessory structures used as a tool and storage sheds, playhouses, and similar uses, provided the floor area does not exceed 120 square feet square meter. In 2018, what we're amending and what we're the section 105.2 says, work exempt from permits, one single-story detached accessory structure provided that the floor area does not exceed 200 square feet. We're adding the words, wall heights shall not exceed 10 feet above finished grade to define one-story building. By making the finished grade the benchmark, we would avoid an exempt structure to be elevated high in the air. So those are changes and amendments in 2018. That's from the IBC. Also, IRC has the same, exactly the same section 105.2, exactly the same, International Residential Code. So then in International Residential Code, Chapter 11, Energy Efficiency, this paragraph does not even exist in 2006. So we're adding, we will allow third-party testing for compliance of the requirements. That sentence. The burden for homeowners to comply with the strict word of the energy code is hard and expensive and was the major reason we had remained in 2006 energy efficiency code. Homeowners can use ResNet. ResNet stands for the Residential Energy Service Network. A free online program to design the correct construction materials to comply, and most licensed contractors are certified to perform the third-party duties. This is to add the third party in the contract. It's very strict, so kind of make it a little bit easier, those adoption and amendments. Then we're adopting the 2018 IECC, see about Chapter 11, and adopting the 2018 International Swimming Pool Code, removal for most of the pool area requirements from the International Residential Code. So you can take a look. This is only 2 paragraphs from IBC and from the Energy Efficiency Code. The changes, that's what I was trying to explain. Well, that's a little bit fun part. History of the codes. You know, the first building code was developed by Hammurabi in 2000 before Christ. And there is one interesting couple laws. You see the red arrow pointing out to the one hieroglyphics? That's an error. When I was reading it, I noticed there was some error there. Law 229, if a builder builds a house for someone and does not construct it properly, that's just the history. And the house which he built falls in and kills its owner, then that builder shall be put to death. Well, I can do two more.
All right, well, thank you, Svetlana.
Well, I wanted to say a couple more things.
Okay.
You said it all about the so adoption of 2018, IBC 2018 codes has been dictated to us by the new developments, and Todd already mentioned that. One of them, our future new hotel, we're hoping to build a new hotel. Study's been done. We do need a hotel for how many people? 500?
It's the study states we need immediately 60 hotel rooms with at least 500 square feet of meeting space based on current use, not on proposed or future use. So not just resolution, but what's happening now, we need 60 hotel rooms.
Hopefully, one day we can build on one of the properties of the
No, BHP,
BHP properties.
we have requested they transfer property to us, but that's time for the future.
That would be amazing, right on US 16. New residential housing, I can tell you the housing is growing. I get at least 2 new people coming interested monthly. to buying lots. I get the phone calls all the time, interested in buying lots, checking the zoning, checking the wetland areas. And our multi-general building, central building, those are architects already have difficulties. They mentioned, we're in 2006, they have to submit plans to Pinellas County in 2018 with the 2018 regulations. So that's already makes them very difficult to play on it. So I talked to architects and I said, go ahead, you work with 2018. We are in process of adopting 2018 rules.
By the time it gets to construction, we should be through this process.
Yes, we're hoping.
Are most of the counties in Arizona using the new updated codes?
Yes.
It varies, but most people update on at least a 6-year cycle. So we're about 4 years past that, so we're about 14 years. So we're a bit past the useful lifespan of our codes. So we ought to be on a more regular cycle going forward.
With these changes, Todd, taking place, are they going to be either as stringent or as MAG standards, or just in part?
Max standards are,
MAG standards are generally about street weight building design. So they're
site design,
yeah. So
road
So
design.
we're comparable with them, more or less, with this
most
code?
MAG designs are already used as a general standard in most street construction. But the IRC and IBC, that's a different issue.
Okay.
IBC is an international building code and international residential code. They are for the building structures. MAC standards are for building sites, roads, streets, wetland,
Okay.
stormwater pollution designs, manholes, utilities, all of that. And then there is many new technologies included in 2018, and structural elements that the progress is always developing. They always find some new materials, they develop new materials, which they included in 2018, which was not even here in 2006.
Rooftop solar is a good example. They had some in 2006, but it wasn't near as prevalent. And there have been lots of code adoption changes for rooftop solar. It has lots of safety issues because the power is always on no matter what you do. So put water on it and you're a firefighter, you lose that. So there's lots of safety things that have been reflected in things like that. The changes are many. Again, it's a fairly long document, and we'd hate to try to bog you down by looking at all of them, but here's a change list. It shows from side to side, it shows each code adoption year, every 3-year cycle, and the changes that were done during that change cycle. This is a summary of a bunch of different change logs. That's what these are generally called, is a change log. It's some of them, generally, the new 2018 code set is considered to be simpler and easier to enforce, but it also is more stringent in some ways, so it's a case-by-case basis.
That's why we have the amendments on every exhibit. If you will take a look at the amendments, it kind of makes it easier. Instead of the word shall, we're using it may. You'll see many words like that.
It softens the code a little bit, but there's also some state law requirements that Dallas will get more into to talk about sprinklers and things like that.
This is one of the studies in Excel format. I have the printouts. There's the columns showing the years 2009, 2012, 2015, 2018. Those I have in hard copies if you're interested. And it shows the section 105.2, which year, what was added and what was changed. And it's very long. It has 18 pages.
And we understand this is a heavy lift to understand all this, which is why we're not asking for adoption tonight. We'll be asking you to table that item because it's going to take a little homework to read through this mess. We do encourage you to come by and look at the hard copy code set, but it is unlikely anybody's gonna have the time to read. This is just 2 of the books. The fire books over there.
Are we gonna have some workshops or where we can get together and have it also open to the public?
We can absolutely do that on the next one. We do have to be careful about our timelines, again, like I said, because we only
Oh, I
have
realize
a
that.
short period of time. But I think if we schedule our next month's meeting as a workshop meeting, and then we could consider transferring from a workshop into a adoption hearing, a regular hearing. So we just put it on the regular agenda. That way we could have a workshop, discuss it, and then move into adopting a resolution. And then there's going to be another public hearing for the council, and then hopefully get them to adopt it. But my guess is we're pushed out at least until June before we can adopt it. And again, if we do that, then we have August to get the whole inspection program in place.
Is
So
there
there's-
any way that you can sort of like, I guess, put it in the Superior Sun or else the Copper Country News?
It was 30 days ago, it was published for public hearing.
Well, I've sort of been out of the loop and things like that.
30,
But I'm just wondering if you guys could, if you could make it an article that this benefits the town, but you need to participate because we don't want any problems later on down the line. Because that's usually what they'll say, you know that, Todd, they'll say, oh, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it. I haven't been reading the papers because I've had some huge medical issues.
I understand. One of the things I would say is that this does not change the fact that we already have a code set and we're already enforcing. The changes on this are incremental, and they don't change the core enforcement. What's going to really change everything isn't the code set, it's who's enforcing it. That's where everybody's going to get interested and where it's going to be a real problem for us. The fee structure is going to be very important. Who's doing it? Is it a good customer service organization? Are we going to end up with problems like we had with Wildan in the past where things went into nowhere land? So there's lots of issues that are going to come out of this. The code says it's to me the least controversial at this point. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have its own issues. But we absolutely will post it out there and put it on Facebook, a work session for next time to discuss it and try to get more interest from the public. Usually you get lots of interest from the public when things are going wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
And when things are normal and administrative and not particularly controversial, nobody shows up. So if we post it and nobody shows up, that usually means nobody cares.
People do know about this international building codes, right? What we're doing is we're only adapting it to the newer version.
Yeah, well, I
The
understand.
mostly laws have not changed.
Well, let's get Dallas. You want to?
Here is the IRC package changes. If you're interested, please welcome to read. And I was talking about this is the IBC, and this is the 2015-2018 changes book. You're welcome to come and read.
All right, Dallas. Next, Tag. Do you want to hold your chair up and sit over here? And
Thank you. Oh,
Or you can
this is
stand
fine.
up if you want.
I'm old and my knees don't get as good as they used to, so standing for a minute is a great idea. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dallas Lane, Deputy Fire Marshal for the Superior Fire Department. And on behalf of Chief Perez, it's my pleasure to address you folks tonight and give you some brief information and orientation on the adoption of the 2018 International Fire Code. The first point, though, I did some quick calculations. If the Code of Hammurabi was on a 3-year update cycle, we'd be talking about the 1,216th edition of the code tonight. The International Fire Code is a member of the International Code family, as Lana was talking about. The Fire Code is organized to work in conjunction with the Building Code, the Residential Code, the Mechanical Code, etc. It's organized along the same format and outline, and the different codes are specific to their areas of need. So the Building Code, for example, in a particular chapter would say that a building needs to have fire protection features according to the fire code, and you go to the same chapter in the fire code and find out what those particular features are. So that's how they're organized to work as a family, so that's why they're adopted as a set, with all of them referring to and relating to each other, and why they all need to be the same version. The information that you've received concerning the codes that Lana just did all apply to the fire code, because like I say, they all relate to each other and refer to each other and follow the same outline. The current town code is the 2006 International Fire Code. However, as Todd mentioned, the state fire code is the 2012 International Fire Code, which the state is also in the process of updating. So under state law, no jurisdiction in the state can have a fire code less restrictive than the state has. So we've been operating under the 2012 International Fire Code for a number of years, just by default. So I'd like to take a second just to talk about why the fire code. And what I explain to citizens and business people and customers and the folks that we work with and try to assist is the reason for the fire code and the reason for a fire prevention program and what we do with the Superior Fire Department. Obviously, it's easy to say it's the protection of life and property, and we want to prevent fires and we don't want anybody to get hurt or killed, and that's very, very true. But there's also a benefit to the town and the development and the progress of the town. On a national level, national statistic, a small business that sustains a fire that causes them to close, even for a short period of time for repairs and things, has less than a 50-50 chance of successfully reopening or still being in business at the end of that year. So a fire is, even a small fire is a devastating event to a small business. So by working with those business owners and providing fire prevention, I like to call it consulting, in working with the business owner about ways to prevent a fire and make their business safer, and if they don't experience that fire, then the service we've offered them as the town is we've doubled their chances of successfully staying in business. And with that then, if they're successfully in business, then the town equally benefits from that business being open and being successful. So it's a pretty serious proposition to the benefit of the citizens as well as the town as a whole to provide good services and I don't like to use the code enforcement concept so much as helping people do the best that they can do to have the best quality environment and structures and safety so that we don't have incidents that impact those people either personally or business-wise, and the same thing with the town. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. I realize sometimes it's less than pleasant to have somebody from the government come knocking on your door at your business. I totally understand that. But I think we're giving them a product that they actually economically benefit from. So that's what we're trying to accomplish through this. So the particular benefits of the 2018 International Fire Code, I've just got 4 bullet points here that are some big things that are updates since the 2006 code and in 2012. One of the big issues in new construction, whether it be residential or commercial and development, is the availability of water. Water for firefighting purposes as well as potable water. And so we're dealing with issues of fire hydrants and fire sprinkler systems and those kinds of things. The development of the newest edition of the code has more latitude in there for the fire department to work with builders to have greater flexibility and options and ways of meeting that requirement for fire flow. In order to provide a service, we have to have water, and we have to have enough water to fight a fire. And it's pretty scary when we don't. So, but the newer code just provides more flexibility in ways of working with a builder to come up with the numbers to get enough water to keep the community safe. So that's an important improvement. Another really important one is the new code, and the occupancy definitions are the same in all the codes because they all refer to each other. But the updated definitions for residences separates what we call single-family residences, which is in the code is classified as an R3 or residential 3 type building, which is a single-family residence. Your basic single-family house is an R3. But there's a new expanded definition of an R4, which deals with bed and breakfasts and group homes and supervisory care homes and those kinds of things. There's a real trend, which is very good for, especially in supervisory care homes, as people become seasoned citizens and need extra help in being taken care of, but certainly don't need to be institutionalized or in a nursing home or that kind of a facility, that medical care is being provided in a residential setting. In a residence, somebody would operate a business, and it would be a home, and it would have 4, 5, or 6 bedrooms, and they could have a number of residents in there that are receiving nursing home, almost kind of care. Their daily needs are being met, kind of thing. But they're in a residence, and they have friends, and they have a living room, and it's more of a nicer environment for that person. But that really increases the life safety risk if you were to have a house like that with 10 or 12 or 15 senior citizens living in it and one staff person on duty at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then there's a fire, and those people can't get out. So we're not talking about a single-family residence. We're talking about a business operating in a building that looks like a single-family residence. And it's been very confusing for 10 or 12 years at trying to work through this. Just involved in there's a very highly visible political situation in Sedona, where a builder up there has built a bed and breakfast with 10 guest suites and a 2-story L-shaped building in a residential neighborhood between 2 houses. And he built it as a single-family residence, as an owner-builder, claiming that he just had a big family, but if his family wasn't there, he might let other people stay in the house. Well, under the ambiguity of the previous definitions between an R3 and an R4 codes, he was able to get away with it under the previous edition of the code. The community is very unhappy about this situation. But anyway, this solves that. So, single-family residences are unaffected. We're not messing with anybody's houses or how they live, their own family and that sort of thing. But as these other programs develop, if somebody were to come to town and want to build a larger home with 6 or 8 or 10 bedrooms and provide mental health care or senior citizen care or something like that, we're much better equipped to deal with that kind of situation. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits coming out of this version of the code. Another one, and this fits in very much to the economic growth and development of the town, is safety measures for outdoor special events are improved and more comprehensive. And this is going to support the growing number and size of the events that the town is hosting. There's a higher potential for something to go wrong in a special event with a temporary environment with a lot of vehicles and food vendors and propane and generators and all kinds of stuff going on, and then a large number of people out and pedestrians in the street and that sort of thing. So the newer additions to the code, the fire code, helps address that process as we assist people with their special event permits and how to set those up safely. And then the last one, the new edition of the fire code in conjunction with the International Property Maintenance Code provides a comprehensive mechanism for addressing dangerous buildings. So we'd be better equipped and administratively more streamlined to deal with abandoned or vacant buildings or dilapidated buildings, or a building after a fire occurred and the building was not structurally safe anymore. and became an unsafe building. And so the mechanism for that, the fire code says it's an unsafe building, but directs you to the property maintenance code for the mechanics of how to deal with that situation. So from boots on the ground, fire inspector, fire prevention standpoint, out dealing with the public, there's some good improvements with the fire code, and these are kind of the highlights of the things that I think are most pertinent to what we're immediately involved in here in Superior. So, thank you.
Dallas, to your last sentence, there is, in our amendments, we're amending that those dilapidated structures or structures that was not occupied more than 6 months, they do require fire safety inspection, and if somebody wants to come in and leave, start living in it, not leaving, staying in the house, yes. Staying in the house, they have to do the inspections first, plumbing inspections, fire inspections, and I think some, another
Is
inspection.
this a Pinal County condition?
That's our amendments, that's what we're amending to.
Well, Pinal County has already
Yes,
done that.
yes, they're already done that, they're already adopted. They're in the new code since 21st of January 2020, right? You saw it?
The way it's set up is, the amendment to the Pinal County Code is, if once a structure's been without utilities for more than 6 months, in order for the utility company to turn the utilities back on, they gotta go through the green tag process and inspection.
And that just means, generally for instance, to get green tagged, you have to have an electrical inspector inspect it and say that panel is safe. You have to have, your gas system has to pass a gas pressure test. It doesn't necessarily mean the whole building has to be re-inspected.
Not the whole building, just the fire,
the
gas,
utilities?
and water, utilities, yes, and that's for safety of public. We don't know how many years that house was sitting, and then they just.
There's also another thing that's happening in state law that there's legislation being sponsored by Representative Shope right now, based on the town's push for doing something about blight. They're going to institute a vacant building registry, and we could select a zoning district in town, for instance, Town Center District, and say that any vacant building in Town Center has to be kept maintained with utilities, has to be kept with windows, has to be clean, painted, has to be essentially ready for occupancy. And they have to pay a registry fee. We adopt whatever that fee might be. And it is inspected by the fire marshal and the building official once a year. We would have to adopt a local ordinance to mirror the state law, but the new state law will allow us to do that. It hasn't passed yet, but there isn't a lot of opposition for it.
That would be a great thing for our town.
So that's just the first step on dealing with our downtown blight problem. We still have the tax inequity problem where a property owner who lets his building become dilapidated could then apply to the Board of Equalization to have the tax decreased so that it's no longer considered a building. So a building next to maybe paying $400, next to another building is paying $1,500, and they're almost identical buildings. But one was allowed to, the windows to break and to be boarded up and to be allowed to rot intentionally so that they could get a lower tax rate. We're asking if they address that. They're not going to address that this year, maybe next year. All right, any other questions about the code set? I know it's a lot of information.
Your first bullet up there about special events, the safety measures are improved and more comprehensive. Can you give me an example of an improvement?
Certainly. Some of the things that have changed over the years that, especially since way back to 2006 and coming up until now, is the classifying of commercial food vendors, commercial food vehicles as commercial kitchens. So we would have the opportunity to get away from the homemade trailers with homemade propane systems and homemade electrical systems and that sort of thing in them, and would treat those as commercial kitchens. The health department already inspects and permits those as kitchens from a health and sanitation standpoint, but the health department doesn't deal with the fire issues. To give an example, last year from Apache Leap, I get a chuckle at this job, so you can't make some of this stuff up. But one of the food vendors that came to town had again, a kind of a homemade camp trailer sort of thing, and put a big blue tarp awning out in front of it, and then had the propane burner stoves for cooking and frying. And so we've got this big heat-producing flaming appliances underneath this big 200-square-foot flammable parachute, and no barriers or anything to keep the public away from it. And then the wind came up, if you folks recall that weekend, the wind came up real strong. And so the second time I went down the street and checked them, they'd rolled their 100-pound propane cylinders out from behind the trailer out in front and tied the tarp down with them. So now we've got this tarp that's ready to launch down the street like a parachute on fire, dragging propane cylinders with it. And, you know, I sympathize with the people that are trying to, you know, be self-employed and be entrepreneurs and things, but they have to do it right. And this allows us to go and say, hey, the rules of a commercial kitchen apply, and you couldn't do this in a restaurant, so you can't do it out here in our street either.
That's a good point.
Any other questions?
No? Anybody else?
So I'm taking direction, you would like a free-form work session next time to allow people to discuss it on a more informal basis? No. And is that for next session, is that what I understood my direction was?
Yes, probably public hearing, like a work session or whatever. Well, like here, you know, we've got just like section G2406. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, but, you know, for us to read through that whole book, yeah, it's not gonna happen, but that wouldn't be really our concern. It's more the building inspector or you guys to understand it over us. Which, it sounds like this is a better code, which will improve, you know, like I said, if you're gonna build a house, you're not gonna waste money. You're gonna do it the right way. You're not gonna build like they used to, you know, slats, put some stucco on it, you're done, with no insulation or anything.
The main concern is we want construction companies to come and build here,
Right.
and they're not gonna deal with the 2006 code. We have no choice, the life is pushing us to go into newer code system, which is in 2018, and all those building inspector and fire inspectors and plumbing inspectors, electrical inspectors, every 3 years when the code comes in, they always look and they know all the changes. They go right away with a new book.
So my suggestion would be for this work session, that
Would
if
be
you
for
study the change logs and come back with questions about those changes specifically, we'll do our best to answer them in the work session, and then hopefully the public will come with some questions.
Would you want those questions ahead of time?
That would be great. I'm sure Svetlana would really appreciate those.
I'm sure.
But as you go through the list, you could just highlight the sections that concern you or email your questions in, and we'll try to get answers.
Is that book, could we get online to read that too?
This, you
There
can
is,
get on
yes.
to read it, but the subscription, I believe, is hundreds of dollars a year for each individual. And if you want to, this book itself, by itself, I think is about $150.
Right.
So they're pretty pricey.
I went online to find out what it would cost me to download all the versions, all these latest versions. It was about $1,000, just to download it.
You can subscribe, but the subscription is just about the same cost as you're buying, so. But yeah, that's why we do have the examples. We have not bought all 3 versions, because if we choose not to adopt 2018, we would have wasted $3,000 and we don't want to do that. But we have bought 1 copy so that it's in Svetlana's office. You feel free to come read it and check it out. Compare it to your change logs. The change logs, if it's not on the change log, it's the same as the previous code, and it's kind of irrelevant, right? So
Again, this is more for like building inspectors. If you send your questions, because I won't be able to answer them right away in the work session, I'm not a building inspector. I don't have to know all those codes and regulations. There's thousands of, and I tell you what, even the building inspectors with 30 years of experience, they know how to find things in the book. They don't know exactly. No one knows this book.
That is absolutely true. You're trained to reference the book. Even when you take your testing on it, you're allowed to have the book to reference because nobody can memorize the summary. So it does
It's
take
going
research.
through those sections that you're welcome to read, you're welcome to look at the 2018, but again, this is more for inspectors.
Right.
We're here to adopt the newer version of 2018 code, which the life is dictating us. Right there is a building, multi-gen building, will be sitting and waiting for us. If we'll be sitting in 2006, that will be very complicated for them.
Okay, so we've presented the basic information. Again, you're just going to take some research. I take my direction. We're going to do a work session. We'll need, if you do not want to adopt it tonight, which I don't think you do, but if you don't want to adopt it tonight, you will have to make a motion to table the adoption, and we can discuss it the next year.
If we table it, then will the council table it also?
I'm not going to put it on the council agenda until there is a resolution of the planning and zoning. So the proper way for this to work is planning and zoning will consider and then adopt it, and then we'll take it to council.
We cannot just stretch this for too long. We
Right.
have to work on the fee structure.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and table it for tonight. Let the public know what's going on. That way later on, down the road, when there's a festivities going on, somebody shows up, is gonna raise a hell and say, hey, why can't I do this? I've been doing it for the last 30 years. Hey, come over here and speak your piece, because you know what? That's the time to do it, because it happens all the time. But there's changes here. The town is changing. We're not operating in the 60s anymore, so let's get the public informed and let them know what's going on.
Okay, we'll absolutely, I'll try to get an article in the paper discussing it as well. Jen, the problem is that unengaged is unengaged. If they don't read, there's not much we can do to get them engaged. But we will put it in the paper, we will put it on Facebook, we'll try to get the word out.
Okay. Motion made by Henry Munoz to table the adoption of 2018 International Building Codes and local amendments. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Joy. How do you vote, Henry?
Aye.
Henry voted aye. Yes. Joy?
Aye, yes.
Henry? David?
Yes.
Yes. Matt? Yes. Motion carries to table the adoption of 2018 International Building Code with local amendments.
All right, we'll prepare that agenda as you have directed us to.
Okay, number 2, approval of resolution number 2020-01, a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I think that's what we were
That was the same thing, okay. So we go to call the public. You want to say anything? Nope.
I'll just wait, because
Okay.
I just,
Okay, do I hear we'll close call to the public. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Motion made by David Gunn. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Joy. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries to adjourn the planning and zoning meeting of Spirit.
Yeah, well, you can put them together and work on it.
Yeah, I'll put something together.
Oh, yeah, there was someone.
Yes. You can stop, you can take it now. if you want.
I knew you were somebody else.